Hi guys, my name is Blake. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my top reads of 2020. So in 2020 I managed to read 66 books, but unfortunately I didn't have very many 5 stars. So I have 9 books to show you. For this list I will only be including each author and series once. I'll just choose my favorite of what I read, and rereads won't count. If I allowed rereads and the same author multiple times, I would just be talking about Brandon Sanderson and Lord of the Rings, and everyone already knows how great those things are, so I'll go for a little more diversity. On this list I have 2 adult fantasy novels, 1 adult science fiction novel, 5 YA fantasy novels, and 1 middle grade fantasy. In my 9th spot I have Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I gave this 4.5 stars. In this novel we're following Nightmare, who is a anarchist, which in this world are supervillains, and she has decided to infiltrate the Renegades, which are the superheroes of this world, and she's going to infiltrate their group and tear them down from the inside. I absolutely love anything with superheroes, but I especially love supervillains. Anything with superpowers normally has me foaming at the mouth, so this was right up my alley. I really loved how morally gray all of the characters felt. We had good guys that were bad, and we had bad guys that were good, and I never knew which side I really wanted to root for, because they both had good points, and it was really great seeing the lines blurred between these 2 groups as what was right and what was wrong. This book also has a slow burn romance. Romance isn't something that I normally pay a lot of attention to, but I actually really liked the romance in this one. We also have a really diverse cast of characters. No, this book doesn't have the most original plot. It's superheroes. We've seen them all a million times. This book could definitely be shorter, and yes, there were a lot of cheesy lines and cheesy dialogue between the characters, but I still really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I didn't love the rest of the books in the trilogy as much as this first one. I gave the second book 3 stars and the third one 3.5 stars, but I really enjoyed this first one quite a bit, and I am really glad that I picked it up. In my number 8 spot I have Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaeffer. I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. Guys, this book is dark. I mean, it's so dark that I was surprised that it was classified as young adult. And it's not just a couple places here or there, it's from page 1 all the way to the end. In this book we're following our main character Nita, and she does autopsies and harvests body parts and sells them on the black market. And the people that she is harvesting these magical body parts from are supernatural beings. And through some unusual circumstances, Nita herself gets sold to the black market. There is graphic violence, torture, cannibalism. I mean, this book has a lot of harsh content, but if you like morally gray characters or reading from the perspective of villains, this book is for you, because everyone you meet in this book is terrible. They're all horrible people and they love being bad, and I think that was really interesting that our main character knows that she's not a good person and she doesn't want to be a good person, but she does have a line that she won't cross. I really enjoyed the paranormal aspect as well. The author includes paranormal beings from fairy tales all around the world, and I think that was really unique, and these characters live amongst us, and there were a lot of supernatural beings that I had never heard of before. I wish that it had been longer. I think that the pacing was slightly off at times. Number 7, I have Nevermore: The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. In this book, we're following this young girl named Morgan, and she is cursed because she was born on a certain day of the year, and everything bad that happens around her is her fault, and she's doomed to die on her 11th birthday. For years, I was under the impression that I didn't like middle grade, but this one was absolutely phenomenal. The writing was so whimsical, and this world was so unusual. The author really has a vivid imagination, and she writes it so well. It reminded me a lot of Alice in Wonderland, The Christmas and the Halloween chapters in this book were my absolute favorite. I still remember descriptions from those chapters. And there's also a lot of really gorgeous messages in the story of found family and self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others and the unfairness of life. Number 6, I have Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is an adult science fiction novel. And in this novel, it starts with this young girl who fell into a giant metal hand in the earth. When this girl grows up, she becomes a scientist and she is studying this robotic hand, and she discovers that there are other giant body parts around the world. It's really about the scientist putting this together and realizing that it can't be made by humans and how the world responds. The format is really interesting. It's told in interview style format. I listened to it on audiobook and I really think that's the way to go. I love the sci-fi elements, and as the story progresses, it has more thriller elements to it. And the ending was really big, and it kind of changes everything that I thought I knew about the book. So I'm really excited to continue on with the rest of the trilogy. In my 5th place, I have Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I absolutely love witches, and a novel about a witch being forced to marry a witch hunter sounds phenomenal. And I really enjoyed it from start to finish. I love the characters, Lou and Reed, who they are as people, their banter, the character arcs that they experience. It was just so great. Lou and Reed are complete opposites, and this book kind of takes popular gender roles and flips them on their heads. Lou is so mouthy and sarcastic, and Reed is really shy and introverted. In this world, we have 2 different types of witches, have their own limitations and their own way of doing magic. And both forms of magic require that you give something of yourself away to do it. In 4th place, I have Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetta. In the chapters in the past, we're following Finnegan as a young boy, and in his home kingdom of Lumitere, someone has come and murdered the royal family and taken the throne for themselves. Then the land is cursed, and the people of Lumitere are scattered across the land and exiled. And then in the modern day chapters, Finnegan is a young man, and he has heard a rumor that the rightful heir to the throne of Lumitere is still alive, and he begins to have hope for his people as he sets off to find the heir to the throne. I want to start by saying that the opening prologue is one of the best that I've read. The way that she writes the grief of these people in Lumitere is so realistic. It's just really heartbreaking to read, and I think that she captured that really well. I also really like her characters. They're very complex, and I both loved and hated some of them. We have some of these characters that were forced to grow up rather quickly, and then they have to make very mature and difficult decisions. And then there are times when they act really young. And I couldn't tell if the author was wanting to lean more YA or adult. But either way, I still enjoyed that character complexity. And she wrote fight scenes really well, and I really liked her female characters. In spot number 3, I have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. In this novel, we're following Elizabeth, who is a librarian in training at a magical library. Someone keeps setting the magical books loose, and Elizabeth has been framed, and she has to team up with a sorcerer to clear her name. I absolutely loved this book. The descriptions, the atmosphere. I've read both of Margaret Rogerson's books now, and I think that she's absolutely phenomenal. She could definitely become a favorite author of mine. I loved the characters in this. I loved the idea of magical books and a magical library. The way that she writes the atmosphere and the setting is so well done. And the books have their own personalities, and they can even turn into monsters. So, I mean, it's just fantastic. I really don't know what else to say. In my second place spot, I have The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This book takes place in Russia, and we follow our main character, Vasya. And she practices the old ways of magic. She can see these old magical beings. But then her father remarries a devout Christian woman. And then everything starts to change. And Vasya is the only one that can see this magic. There are a lot of references to Russian culture and folklore in this, and I really enjoyed that aspect. The atmospheric writing felt so realistic. I really did feel cold while reading this northern Russian setting. It really does feel like a modern fairy tale. It leaves me thinking of The Night Circus and Uprooted in a lot of regards. And we have a really creepy priest. This priest does terrible things for what he believes are the right reasons. And I really enjoy villains with that mindset. And in my number one spot, I have Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Stormlight Archives. So I read the first 3 books in the Stormlight Archive this year, and this one was my favorite. But all of them were really good, I thought. And I'm going to put this down because it's heavy. This series has quickly become an all-time favorite of mine. This is the most extensive magic system and world building that I've ever seen in a fantasy book. I love the characters, and the thing is, I'm not a character-driven reader. That's not what I really rely on. Brandon Sanderson really makes you care about his characters. You really root for them. A lot of his characters have different mental illnesses. And I know that he spends a lot of time researching these. And I really love Kaladin, and I think that his depression is really well written. And the stakes always feel really high. That's all I have for my top reads of 2020. Let me know what your favorite reads were, or if you'd read any of these, because I would love to know. And I'll see you with another video again soon. Bye!